So we want to talk about receiving and what that means, because you can have a lot of blocks and blockages around receiving for the self. If somebody wants to pay for dinner, if somebody wants to give you a bunch of flowers, give you a compliment, give you a promotion, sometimes our default is, or the human default is, no, 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 no. Even giving information and being in receiving mode for the information and the light to come through, or the energy upgrade to heal your body, which you've been asking for, and your truest desires is to just be healed from dis-ease in your body. If you cannot accept the light and the information, if you cannot accept the coffee, if you cannot accept the compliment, how will you be able to receive the healing that you so desire? Or you may be in a mode to receive it a little bit and you get a little bit better and then it comes back again. It's not the body, it's the energy of receiving. And people think receiving is passive. However, it's an action. You need to be aware of the action. It is receiving, it's still a doing thing. But it's been perceived as charity. Receiving has been perceived as a weakness. It's been perceived as a helping hand. I'm fine, I don't need help. Somebody else out there needs more help than I. There are people starving in this country. You should be grateful. All of those stories really have changed and shifted the way in which you can receive and which you are open to receiving. So in this specific quadrant of receiving, we have to fundamentally tell you that we need to shift as a community and as a collective on how and in what way we receive. Receiving has been misinterpreted as passive. It is not a passive thing. It's an open communication of sharing information and of sharing things. You have just been in the story of too much judgment around receiving. The storyline is, I give you this, you must give this back in return. Is time to be released from the collective consciousness. It's time for us to move on to a greater story of receiving for the planet. Look at a child or a baby when they come into form and they come into a family space. All they do are receiving. They are receiving food, they are receiving clothes, they are receiving love, they are receiving shelter, they are receiving gifts. Sometimes the babies are receiving gifts for the next 4 or 5 years at the time of birth. Because as you naturally come into this formation, you are a receiver. A baby has nothing blocking it. It has no judgment of, okay, you gave me this pram or stroller. What do I need to do? Be cute? I need to say a word to get something? They have no mentality of this. They have no understanding of this. They are just open to receiving. And somehow along the line, we get told stories of don't take things from strangers. Nothing is free. You need to work to earn. This many hours earns this much receiving. This much love earns this much receiving. These thoughts and these storylines cannot exist. It does not exist in light. It does not exist in love. It cannot exist. It's not a vibrational or energetic match. So from a sixth dimensional and a seventh dimensional timeline, this part of receiving cannot come with you. The best example that we can give in terms of you are receiving something and not expecting anything in return, and you are just completely in receiving mode, is when you are in the sunlight. Yes, many of you use your creams and your hats and your umbrellas and your gloves to block the sun, but it's undeniable that when you're out at the sun, or when you're laying on the beach, or when you're laying in the park, you are automatically receiving sunlight with no judgment or intention. You're not intending to say, I'm going to the beach and receive the light that is sharing from the sun so that I can upgrade my energetic body. You have no intention of such thing because it's innate in you. You don't even need to think about it. The story of scarcity of hunger and food and water has not instilled gratitude, it's instilled lack, and it has blocked your receiving. So when we say receiving for the self, receiving for the collective, and receiving for the planet, this has to be in perfect balance. And it's okay if it takes you a while to see what those things are for you and to see how that reflects in your life and in what aspects. But part of this exercise and part of the quadrants and going through each area of balance in your own receiving is to be aware of where you have a lack, is to be aware of where you're holding judgment. For example, I receive for myself all the time because I receive a salary every week. If that's all that you can receive and that's all you can think of, that's okay because it's a starting point. Eventually, those things in your receiving will say, I receive for this for myself, pure guidance and connection to source. I receive for myself love unconditionally that I reflect back into unity consciousness. I receive for myself grounding to my earth star and connecting to ancestors. It will not be monetary or materialism. It will be connection. And let's move on to the next one, receiving for the collective. What can I possibly receive for the collective? Everything. It's a reflection. You're receiving everything all the time. Thoughts that are not yours, because you're a receiver. Energies and emotions that are not yours. A really good example of this is crossing the bridge. You're receiving all the fears and past experiences of every single person that is afraid to cross that bridge. It's not your fear, it's not your thoughts, but you're still receiving them, right? You can feel it. You feel the fear because you are a receiver. So what can you receive for the collective? Messages of divine love and source. You can receive the most amount of sunlight that your light body can hold to expand your light, which then expands everybody else's light. You can receive healing for the collective. You can receive open abundance for the collective. You can receive a new internet for the collective. You can be open to receiving a new timeline for the collective. And you can get into more detail. I'm open to receiving a timeline for the collective where we have no more gas motor vehicles, for example. But remember, if you're going to be specific, you really must align with that, which means you should not be driving the gas motor vehicle because that would not be in alignment with your receiving if that's what you're trying to receive for the collective. Okay, then we go to the planet. How can I possibly receive for the planet? I'm just one person. You can receive healing for the planet. You can be open to receiving the fruits that are coming through from the planet. And again, that might mean growing your own things and aligning with the receiving of the fruits from the planet. It's a lot to expand on and a lot to think about. And even in those thoughts, it's just about expansion. Because in any of those three focus points, where are you stuck? Where is your lack? Where is your judgment? How do you feel about that? The expansion exercise, or writing these things down and getting into the receiving mode, will only help your spiral to have movement, which is what unity currency is. The fundamental thing about the receiving quadrant is to know innately you are a receiver, walking, talking, breathing, living, receiving. That's how it is. And opening up to receiving in different modes and different units of currency is still receiving. You receive a phone call, you receive an email, you receive a smile, you receive a hug, you receive a warm embrace, you receive sunlight. It's just the fact that you have said over and over again to yourself, I never get anything. I'm not that lucky. Good things do not happen to me. That vibration or those words will then come up in your life to prove to yourself as evidence that that is true. And if that's the law, then the same works for the other side. If you say, I am always in receiving mode, things are always working out for me, you will then find evidence to prove that point. So you need to kind of use the laws of the universe to your advantage. That's what it's there for. Yes, there will always be polarity or duality. That's also the sign of the universe. But it doesn't mean that you have to constantly be blocking your receiving flow because you live in a duality universe. Because duality has two sides. When are you going to get to the other side?